Hello, resident filler arc fan here, and welcome to the penultimate episode of Season 2 of JadeBlade. And what a better send-off than talking about this furry fucking piece of shit. This furry piece of shit has been haunting me in my dreams for years. Oh shit! Oh shit! Oh my god. And I think it's finally time for me to explain why this furry sucks so bad.
Okay, Persona 5. Persona 5 is an excellent game. It's got amazing jazzy lo-fi music with gorgeous visual style. Every time a menu appears, I just bust a nut. It has excellent voice acting with a lot of good writing and characters. And that's not to mention just how great the combat is here. And there's so many options, experimentation to be had. It's truly amazing. Baton Pass alone makes this just so much better than Persona 3 and 4 combat-wise. And there's a whole lot of other mechanics as well. Now yes, the game is really easy and it makes it so that you can't fully enjoy the combat. But still, the dungeon crawling is good and the combat is still fun, no matter how easy the game can get. However, one of my biggest problems with this masterpiece of a game is this fucking rodent-looking ass cat. Morgana is one of the first party members you ever meet, as you meet him on April 11th in Kamoshida's palace. His introduction immediately, to me, makes him seem kind of uninteresting. He's basically a tutorial machine, teaching you the basics of dungeon crawling and combat. I find it pretty boring and kind of a cheap way to setting him up as a friendly character. You know, instead of making him actually likable or interesting or really truly help you out, he just gives you a bunch of tutorials, which means, I guess he's helpful, but However, after this basic introduction, we start to learn a little bit more about his character. He hates being called a cat, he's got a lot of brains and ego, and he wants to have sex with all. However, Morgana has some pretty positive traits, like a solid leadership and passion for helping the Phantom Thieves, but unfortunately his massive ego and overall know-it-all personality gets played out a lot, and makes him extremely unlikable. Pretty much all of his dialogue for the most part is just him being a dick, and it gets on my nerves. Also, the whole simping for on joke here is probably one of the most least funny jokes, and it gets told throughout the game and is repeated like 40 times. Great. My biggest problem with Morgana isn't his personality. It's the fact that his character arc is poorly paced and horrendously written. Like I mentioned earlier, Morgana doesn't really start changing until like 50 hours in, so already there's a pacing problem. This character arc really gets started with Makoto and Futaba joining the party. Makoto is smarter than Morgana and robs the co-leader role almost instantly. However, Morgana isn't too mad as he's still the navigator through the metaverse. He tells you what to do, he can analyze enemies, you know, that's what he does. But when Futaba joins, Morgana gets that role taken immediately as well, as Futaba's persona has special Navi abilities that are better than whatever this bitch-ass furry has. So with both of Morgana's purposes taken away in the party, Buddy gets a little sad. But soon that sadness turns into anger, which turns into envy. Now let me stop right here and put my first critique. All of this gets very little screen time. This character arc isn't inherently bad, in fact, it's done pretty well in other things. Because this arc is relying on new characters getting introduced and getting their own arcs, Morgana's gets set to the side. This is obviously a problem, as it feels like Morgana just suddenly gets pissed off at the team instead of gradually developing these feelings that start to show as the game progresses. But back onto the plot train, the Phantom Thieves have to decide on their next target. However, the problem is that they can't seem to agree on said target. The main target here is Okumura, a rich businessman attempting to enter politics, but the squad just can't get along. This all leads into an argument between Ryuji and Morgana, which makes Morgana decide to leave the Phantom Thieves to take out Okumura himself.
Okay, how do I explain this? This argument is dog shit.
Okay, there are two major problems with this argument, with the first one being how it makes almost no fucking sense. The Phantom Thieves know that Okumura has a palace, so they know that Okumura is a terrible person. So the fact that they all struggle to agree on infiltrating the palace is strange, because they also haven't disagreed yet. If they had disagreed before, then I wouldn't feel such whiplash. If they just never confirmed that Okumura has a palace, I wouldn't feel so dumbfounded. One or the other, Atlas. Please choose. But logic is just one of the problems with this argument. The second one is pacing. This arc contains Okumura, Haru being introduced, and this whole Morgana side arc. The problem is, Haru gets around 70% of the development, and that leaves very little for this Morgana shit. So when he has a sudden outburst against Ryuji, it feels very unearned. Also, his reasoning for targeting Ryuji is just so fucking stupid. Kind of. Ryuji is being an egotistical fuck because of his sudden pride over being a phantom thief. The problem isn't the fact that Morgana is wrong, it's the fact that he's just being a fucking hypocrite. Morgana has a lot of ego, like a lot of ego. Yet he accuses Ryuji of being an egomaniac and obsessed with fame. He does not stop simping for An, yet he accuses Ryuji for caring more about getting girls than being a phantom thief. Everything he says here is hypocritical and just makes him look like an overall asshole. And if you excuse me of glazing Ryuji in this situation, you're right, because he's a good character unlike this dumbass stupid idiot. Overall, this argument comes off as very rushed and childish on both sides. Anyways, Morgana joins the beauty thief, who's just Haru, and eventually comes to the realization that running away from the Phantom Thieves is stupid and that the argument was childish. He decides to swallow the pride, and I swallowed my semen, and ends up saving the thieves during the Okumura fight. From there, he realizes that just helping out the Phantom Thieves is good enough for him, and that it doesn't need to be some type of special leader or have a special role. It's a fine payoff, I guess, but the pacing really makes it feel unearned. From there, he doesn't do much until the end, when he seemingly dies after they destroy the metaverse, but he comes back as a regular cat in a not very funny joke that gives me a Ryuji flashback.
And that's Morgana's character, or at least in Persona 5 base game. Let's talk about his part in Royal, because there isn't actually that much to talk about.
Well, Morgana is actually pretty good in Royal, because he's not really in it. This is a story focused on Kasumi and Akechi, so pretty much everyone else gets set to the side. But I think Morgana gets set to the side the most, which makes sense as he already kind of got his self-discovery arc. In the new reality in Royal, Morgana is a human, which makes him somehow more likable. Maybe because he's actually funny now, or it's just ridiculous seeing a grown man sleeping like a cat. But either way, I kind of like human Morgana. And when he finally switches back, he's actually a lot less annoying and still somewhat likable. I don't really know what they did. Maybe they just made his dialogue less annoying, but he's not that bad here. It could also be that this is after his arc of not being annoying, so they try to like limit his ego a little bit. I don't know. Whatever they did, keep doing it, Atlas.
So I guess Royal takes Morgana from a 1 out of 10 to a 2 out of 10 purely off of his third semester. And that is officially Morgana's character in the main story. Overall, it's pretty bad. But maybe his confidant can really go in and save his character, kind of like with Haru.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Morgana's confidant is not really a confidant, as it's automatic and connects directly into the main story. Morgana's confidant is mainly about finding out who he truly is and what his connection to the metaverse is, which ends up getting resolved in the main plot. But Morgana's confidant is just kind of whatever other than that. We don't really learn too much more about him, and it's automatic, so it feels kind of pointless. It's almost like they had some cutscenes of Morgana talking to Joker and made it a confidant with rewards. Whatever. It's not bad, it's just pretty boring.
Okay, so that is everything to do with Morgana, character-wise. But now we get to the part where I talk about how he performs in combat. You know, when you give him a Remington 870, that's what I'm talking about right now. And
Garbaggio. Morgana is terrible in combat. I said it. Morgana is just terrible in combat. There's nothing else to say. Okay, so Morgana is one of the first party members you unlock, and for the most part, he does his role decently. He's a healer with a solid magic stat. But if he gets hit once, bro just fucking dies like Minilad's YouTube channel. Morgana's health and defense stat are absolutely abhorrent, which makes him really hard to use properly. Sure, he has access to a lot of good healing skills, and that is very useful, but his health is such a liability that it honestly does not matter. Also, unlike a character like Ryuji who has access to a broken move like Charge, Morgana gets absolutely no sauce. And if you even say that high crit chance moves are good, you're just delusional. But honestly, I can see someone being able to use Morgana pretty well, as his healing is still really solid, and he can dish out quite a good amount of damage with his Garu skills. But then we reach the biggest problem. Makoto. Makoto, just like in the main story, replaces Morgana in every way. She has healing, which sure is slightly worse than Morgana's, but once she learns Meteorama, it's all over, and she can just be a healer for the rest of the game. And while yes, Morgana has better healing skills, Makoto has way more defense, health, and physical damage output. I just find her to be a way better tank/healer with some solid utility, which beats out anything Morgana can do.
so after a deeper inspection, Morgana gets the Burger King award for being absolutely horrendously god-awful. He's bad in literally everything. He's bad in battle, he's bad in the narrative aspect, he won't fucking stop telling me to go to sleep, he's bad in bed, he's bad at literally everything. But yeah, you know, it kind of really feels like I went through therapy making this video. Anyways, I have to go run my president shit, so I'll be back. Fuck Morgana. Bye.